We are back again for another TNA Impact review. We got a lot to talk about. We got Joe Hendry showing up on NXT. Not only Joe Hendry, but we had Frankie Kazarian too showing up on NXT. We got the fallout for Against All Odds. So we got a lot to talk about. Let's get into it. What's up, guys, and welcome again to the Wrestling for Life Network and to the TNA Impact review. Like I said, we got to talk about Joe Hendry. We got to talk about Frankie Kazarian. We got to talk about the TNA Knockouts World Championship picture and the TNA World Championship picture. We got a lot to talk about. We got a lot of developments coming out of this past week's episode of TNA Impact. We will be covering the June 20th edition of Impact. It was a great show. We will go over some of the highlights, but like I said, this is going to be a good one. So the system kicks off TNA Impact. It kicks off with the system coming out. We got Alicia Edwards grabbing the mic, just trying to explain to everybody that the system is the best faction in professional wrestling today. And right now, I don't know if I can disagree with that because the system is firing on all cylinders. At Against All Odds, every member of the system retain their respective titles. And I really thought at Against All Odds, this was going to be the moment that someone from the system, whether it be the Knockouts Tag Team Championships or the Tag Team Championships, were going to drop the titles. And that did not happen. The system is still remaining strong. And then we had Dirty Dango, who seemingly may be a part of the system, but Moose is not happy about it just yet. Moose is still reserved, but Moose grabbed the mic and said that the system is unbeatable. He is unbeatable. And I didn't even really realize is that Moose hasn't been beaten in singles action in over 2 years. So the system, like I said, really is firing on all cylinders right now. Before this segment ends, we do get an interruption by Santino Marella. And basically, this is what Santino Marella has cooked up for Slammiversary. Over the course of the next couple of weeks, we will be having a Road to Slammiversary qualifying matches. Those qualifying matches and their winners will be challenging Moose for the TNA World Championship at Slammiversary in a 6-person elimination match. I think this is epic. I think this is great. I'm looking forward to see some of these qualifying matches. One of the first ones will be happening on this edition of TNA Impact. It was Josh Alexander versus Eric Young, and we will be talking about that a little later. So we head into our first match of the night, which is Jody Threat and Danny Luna of Spitfire to take on Allison Kay and Marty Bell of the Hex. And this was a match about momentum. Which team needed the momentum? Because we do need some new challengers for the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Championships. And this match was won by Spitfire. No surprise there because they still haven't received their rematch from losing the titles just a couple of months ago. So this was a fun match. I'm glad Spitfire, Danny Luna, and Jody Threat are on the same page, and hopefully at Slammiversary they get to invoke that rematch clause so they can go after those TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Championships. Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy are far from done with the system. In a quick backstage segment, Matt Hardy said that him and Jeff Hardy are going to take over TNA wrestling, and I can't wait to see it. But Matt Hardy is really, really upset about what they did to his wife at Against All Odds. She was put through a table. Basically, Moose moved out the way and Matt Hardy speared his own wife through the table, but he is extremely upset and he said that is something that should not have been done to him. So Matt Hardy is still out for the system. This one is far from being over. So we head to our next match of the night, which was a Chicago street fight. It was Frankie Kazarian versus Ace Steel, and this was Frankie Kazarian's match. This was Frankie Kazarian's match all the way from start to finish. He really had control over this match. No surprise that he won here. Joe Hendry did come out for the save at the end because he kind of put Ace Steels in a submission and kind of held it there after the match. Joe Hendry came out, made the save. But this Joe Hendry Frankie Kazarian feud is not just on TNA Impact. It's showing up on NXT. So this whole feud kind of started last week, right? And it led to a match at Against All Odds where Frankie Kazarian did beat Joe Hendry. Then we moved to NXT, and Joe Hendry and Frankie Kazarian is in the number one contendership for the NXT Championship Battle Royal, where Joe Hendry was only in that match a matter of 5 to 10 seconds before he was eliminated by Frankie Kazarian. So yeah, this feud is heating up, and it's heating up on two programs, one TNA and one WWE. And I know this TNA partnership, with WWE, there's a lot of people saying TNA is not benefiting or whatever the case may be. I do believe right now, and this is my own theory, this is my own thought process, my own mindset, that I do believe TNA is using WWE to expand their storylines. We saw it with Jordan Grace and Ash by Elegance. We see that happening. We are now seeing it with Frankie Kazarian and Joe Hendry. What TNA wants us to do, I believe, is they want the WWE fans to tune in to TNA wrestling. And I feel like that is starting to happen. So I do believe TNA is benefiting. But right now, in the early stages, I think they're just trying to grab viewership. And that is what TNA needs. TNA needs to grow their viewership. And I feel like TNA is doing a good job by using WWE to potentially grow their viewership over on Access TV or the TNA Plus app or YouTube. Wherever you watch Impact Weekly, they are trying to grab that viewership. So we move on to the date between PCO and Steph D. Lander. This was a fun segment. This was a really fun segment. PCO really, I believe, really likes Steph D. Lander storyline wise, and I think the same way for Steph D. Lander. So this was fun. Steph D. Lander trying to ask PCO questions, and all he does is kind of groan. That's his character. He doesn't speak. PCO doesn't speak. But this was fun. I really enjoyed it. At one point, Steph D. Lander and PCO were drinking some type of black gook. I don't know. But this was fun. It was fun, it was weird, it was somewhat uncomfortable as well, but we did get an interruption by First Class, which is AJ Francis and Rich Swann, and AJ Francis actually attacked PCO. All of this is kind of building over the past couple of weeks because we had PCO come out and make a save a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, PCO was attacked by AJ Francis, and then Steph D. Lander was also put through a table. This is going to lead to an encounter in the next couple of weeks. It might even lead to a match at Slammiversary for the Digital Media Championship. I don't know, but I really like the Steph D. Lander PCO stuff. This is I like it. I think this is, you have the super serious things that happen in wrestling, then you have the super unserious and fun things that happen in wrestling. And this is one of those unserious things where you don't really need to take this seriously. You just need to watch and have fun. And that's what this is with PCO and Steph D. Lander. I'm looking forward to what they continue to do with this storyline. I think I said this almost every week that this is one of my favorite things, and I'm always looking forward to what they do next. This was fun, but yeah, keep an eye on PCO, Steph D. Lander, in First Class, because I think something good is going to come out of this. Y'all know what time it is. Y'all know what part of the show this is. It is time to talk about Ash by Elegance. Ash by Elegance was in action on TNA Impact this week. This was not announced beforehand, so when I saw George Iceman come out and introduce Ash by Elegance, I was excited. I was excited. Anytime Ash by Elegance is on my screen, I am super excited because we know some stuff is about to get crazy. And that's what this was. Ash by Elegance was in action against Heather Reckless. This was a light work for Ash as she charged towards the TNA Knockouts World Championship. I don't know if she's going to win. I don't know if this match is happening at Slammiversary, but what I do know is I am ready for it. I don't know if I'm ready for Jordynne Grace to lose that title, but I'm also ready for Ash by Elegance to hold some type of championship. I have been a fan of Ash by Elegance since her Dana Brooke days. And right now, for me, it's like seeing someone finally escape their shell and become something that they've wanted to become for a very, very long time. It's the same thing that happened last year for me with Trinity. Naomi was in the WWE for a very, very long time. She had moments, some good moments, but a lot of that was overshadowed by other women on the roster. And Trinity went to TNA and just shined. She shined so well in TNA. She won the Knockouts Championship against Deonna Purrazzo and held that title for almost 9 months. She had an excellent reign, and that was the talking point last year was Trinity. And as a fan of Naomi and as a fan of Trinity, that was just cool to see her being on top 10 lists, her being talked about positively on social media. This was a moment. And that's kind of how I feel a little bit with Ash by Elegance. Now, she might not being talked about positively on social media, but I feel like this is just a really coming out moment for Dana Brooke, Ash by Elegance, because she worked so hard and she worked her butt off in WWE and really got nowhere. And now she is in TNA. She is in somewhat of a prominent feud with Jordynne Grace. She is being shown every week, and she might not be the best in everything she does, but she works hard to do it. I'm glad Ash by Elegance chose TNA Wrestling. I'm glad Dana Brooke, I should say, chose TNA Wrestling and went over, changed her persona, changed her name. Ash by Elegance is here, and I'm really enjoying everything I see with Ash by Elegance. But again, back to the match, because I got off topic for a second. I just wanted to kind of give you guys my thoughts about how I really feel about Ash by Elegance and why I'm a huge fan of her. But back to the match, it was light work for Ash by Elegance. She won with a swanton bomb that she calls rarefied air. I really like the name of that move. But after she was teasing Jordynne Grace. She was making movements like Jordynne Grace, like she was the juggernaut, and she tried to attack Heather and use the Grace driver or the juggernaut driver. I call it both. I call it the Grace driver and the juggernaut driver. I don't know. But anyway, she tried to use it. Jordynne Grace came out. There was a face-to-face. There was an attack. And Ash by Elegance got the upper hand and attacked Jordynne Grace with the championship belt. She held it high over her head. So soon enough, we might see Ash by Elegance as the new TNA Knockouts World Champion. So we did have another match before the main event, but I really just want to talk about the main event. So I'm just going to move over to the main event, which was a Road to Slammiversary qualifier match, and it was Josh Alexander versus Eric Young, and they gave these two gentlemen some time. It was about 20 minutes, but this was a fun match. Josh Alexander, one of the best in the ring, one of the best in TNA, if not the best, and one of the best professional wrestlers in the world. And people need to stop sleeping on not just Josh Alexander, but on TNA Impact. That TNA has some of the best wrestlers in the world, and Josh Alexander is one of them. Eric Young showed up and showed out and proved why he still has it as a TNA original. This was a fun match. This was a hard-hitting match. And I like a lot of Josh Alexander matches because they start off slow, they continue to be slow and methodical, and then they hit it with the home run with the ending of the match where it's just super fast paced. That's a lot of Josh Alexander matches, and I'm just grateful that he is still within TNA, and I hope that they expand his horizon. Maybe he shows up in this WWE TNA crossover. But one man that I feel like doesn't need to be in NXT and he needs to be facing main roster talent, that's Josh Alexander. That's the same for Moose too. He don't need to be facing no NXT talent. He needs to be facing some of those main roster talents, because Josh Alexander versus Seth Rollins, Josh Alexander versus Randy Orton, Josh Alexander versus Roman Reigns, Josh Alexander versus LA Knight. These matches could happen. Josh Alexander doesn't need to be in that NXT mix. He needs to be in the main roster mix. But like I said, this was a fun match won by Josh Alexander. So he moves on. He moves on to Slammiversary and the 6-person elimination match that is happening at Slammiversary for the TNA World Championship. So I'm excited for Slammiversary. Things are heating up in TNA as we charge to I believe the 20th anniversary of Slammiversary. I hope I didn't quote that wrong, but I do believe it's the 20th anniversary of Slammiversary. And around the corner, we got Emergence, we got Victory Road, and then we got the biggest event of the year for TNA, which is Bound for Glory. So as we charge forward, TNA is just going to continue to grow, and grow. All right, guys, that is the end of the TNA Impact review this week. I know I skipped over some stuff that happened on Impact, but I kind of wanted to keep this to the high points of what came out of Against All Odds. And those were the high points. We got Josh Alexander, Eric Young. We had the system kicking off the show. We had Ash by Elegance on the show. And we have to talk about the PCO and Steph D. Lander stuff. So I wanted to keep this episode towards the high points of what came out of Against All Odds. But y'all, I really am enjoying TNA wrestling right now. They are firing on all cylinders. Their partnership with or collaboration with WWE, I feel like is going strong right now. And I can't wait to see what happens in the future. One of the things that I really want to see happen, if this partnership collaboration leads down the road to at least October, is someone or a few folks from WWE showing up in the Call Your Shot Gauntlet match. I think that'd be an icing on the cake. I know a lot of people want to see a Worlds Collide pay-per-view, or TNA does their multiverse of matches and madness. I would love to see that as well. But yeah, this is a great time, and I've been saying this over the past couple of weeks, that this is a great time to be watching TNA, WWE, and professional wrestling as a whole, because I feel like there's something in it for all of us. But like I said, we have come to the end of the TNA review this week. Thank you for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify or all the other podcasting platforms, thank you for listening each and every week. And I will see you in the next one.